What's happening, guys? Happy Friday, and welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast. On today's show, Jerry and I are going to be breaking down our pre-NFL draft. That's right, we're inside 3 weeks away from the NFL draft, but we're going to be breaking down our pre-NFL draft rookies, risers, and fallers. And I've already spoiled it. My co-host for the evening is none other than the man of the hour and the man with the power, Jerry Sinclair, buddy. 2 times in 1 week, I feel like a lucky man.
Yeah, you are a lucky man. Not as lucky as me, of course. I just got my YouTube notification letting me know that the Dynasty WarZone is on, so that's always a wonderful treat. I'm good. How have you been, buddy? It's only been a couple of days, but I missed you.
A couple of days, we planned this out, and first of all, be like Jerry. Back in the day, Michael Jordan had the Gatorade commercial and the little jingle, "I want to be like Mike." Well, in this case, you want to be like Jerry. If you were subscribed to the Dynasty WarZone YouTube channel, you would have already had this podcast. You could have listened live on Wednesday night when we recorded it, or you could have had it, at work on Thursday, or before the podcast ever hit the airwaves. So that's the benefit of signing up for the YouTube. Just always check under live videos because that tends to be where we stream. So Jerry, exciting, man. As we record this, we're just over 3 weeks. As the people are hearing this in podcast form, just under 3 weeks, man. The NFL draft is close.
Let's go. As a Detroit Lions fan, it's obviously the most exciting part of the entire season because we usually don't win games in January and February. So obviously rather excited. And they've got 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. Oh, Randall, let's go.
Now, is this kind of like a dynasty rookie draft where you're excited because your team has draft capital? Is it really more of that, like because you guys have the is it the 106 and the 118, if I remember correctly? So do you think now do you think that they'll let Jalen Carter slide past them at 6?
I don't. And I would be the happiest camper if that's who they end up with.
Because I gotta say it would be what's the GM there's name? I know everybody thinks highly of him.
Brad Holmes.
Brad Holmes. It would be Brad Holmes would be asleep at the switch, drunk at the wheel, if Jalen Carter, arguably the best player in this draft, if they let him slide. And I think when you have a strong coach, and historically when you think of a strong coach, you think of Mike Tomlin, you think of Bill Belichick, you think of gentlemen that control their locker room and have the respect of their players. I think Dan Campbell's that guy. And I think Detroit is that culture. So I think it's going to work out real well for Detroit and then Seattle right behind him. I would not be surprised if the Cardinals traded out of 3, the Colts stuck and picked a quarterback there. It really goes 4 quarterbacks in a row. And then the Lions and the Seahawks walk away with some combination of Will Anderson. Could you imagine Will Anderson and Aiden Hutchinson on each side?
My nipples are tingling right now just talking about it, bud.
Maybe find like a second-round D tackle. They addressed a ton of off-season. This is what happens when you draft well and your quarterback's not making 50 bajillion, fulfillion, gamillion dollars.
True.
So I am like every day I get like a different story as a Colts fan. It's like, the Colts had, Will Levis in town. They really like Will Levis. And that gets me a little tingly because, I like Will Levis more than most.
Yeah.
And then there's talk that, they're going to draft Will Anderson. And as soon as their pick's off the board, so they're going to draft Will Anderson on Thursday and then try to make Lamar Jackson an offer on Friday. Because then the picks they would be offering to get Lamar Jackson, because any team that does has to offer 2 picks, it would be 24 and 25. And they would have just fixed they just would have, not fixed, but would have helped their defensive side of the ball. And you'd still have your second and some other picks to continue to try to put some pieces around him. So I'm excited for the draft. We're going to talk about risers and fallers tonight, but real quick, we mentioned the YouTube and any social media, but really the YouTube channel. It really helps Jerry and I a ton because we're trying to get to 1,000 subs. It's big for the podcast. It's big for the show. And if you're already on YouTube, whether you watch other videos. I'll be very honest. I watch a lot of poker videos. I've been watching a lot of poker videos,
Like
and
vlogs?
yeah, because I went and played.
Who do you watch? Let me ask. I watch two
Sure,
guys predominantly, but
sure.
if you know
There's a
off the
guy
top
named
of your head.
Huggy Poker.
Okay.
He plays 1-2 and 1-3 in Texas, and that's really it. So here's the thing. I love Daniel Negreanu. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It's been a while.
Negreanu.
Yeah, he's got a great podcast that I listen to called the DAT Poker Podcast. Not too shabby, but I'm never going to be playing for millions. I'm never going to be playing for those stakes. That's why I searched. This is what I searched on YouTube. I searched 1-2 no limit hold'em because that's what I thought I was going to be playing in Vegas, and what I ended up playing in Shelbyville, Indiana, when the whole Vegas fiasco thing happened. If you want that story, go sign up at the Patreon, patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. That'll be up this weekend as well. But yeah, those are the ones. What do you watch anything?
Yeah, I do. Brad Owen is the big one. He's always entertaining. He talks his situations out super well, and he's entertaining. So that's usually my main guy that I watch. But entertaining is all hell if you like poker.
I wrote that down. Here in the Dynasty Warzone, we're all about writer downers. So I wrote down Brad Owens. But yeah, I like watching. Just like I said, it's the same thing with Dynasty. I listen to people that I think are practical that can help me. It doesn't help to get Dynasty advice from Dr. Kyle. Remember Dr. Kyle? Or Theo Greminger from Player Profiler, or Dan from the GOAT District. I'm not playing in $1,500 leagues. So those leagues might, not that I couldn't, but I don't. So I tend to listen to people who play, at the
choke me until I die if I did.
In like the 25, 50, 100-ish dollar range. Because I would rather play in a bunch of those than a bunch of super high stakes leagues. Maybe I'm just cheap. I don't know. But
definitely cheap.
Thank you, Jerry. But so make sure you sign up, patreon.com. I just transitioned to the wrong spot. But speaking of signing up, we are doing a new startup over at the Patreon. Now, Jerry, you know who I blame for the scoring format here? I blame John Sheps and the Australians, AJ and G.
So
because
IDP heavy.
It's start 20.
There we go.
It's on the offensive side, you start 10. It's super flex, tight end premium, and must start 2 tight ends. Outside of that, it's 1 running back, 1 wide receiver. So theoretically, you got to start 1 QB, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 2 tight ends. The other 5 spots are technically flex spots with a super flex.
So it's actually even a little tougher than our Rockolution League because
the Rockolution League was like the spinoff of the league that I'm referring to.
Gotcha.
The defensive side will be just like our Rockolution League, which is also with the Australian guys. And the reason why I wanted it formatted like this is that you just can't destroy the draft from one angle. Hey, I'm going to get 2 QBs and I'm going to dominate, because in this scoring format, the defensive ends score a bunch of points and they're very important. The same thing with the tight ends. So there's not one real strategy that you can just hone into like a standard superflex league, where a lot of people will try to double tap quarterback or whatever. Defensive ends are a premium. High tackling linebackers are a premium. So we really want it to be strategy based while being fun. And we have one of our patrons in the YouTube chat, David. He said this league will take a month to finish if we're lucky. If we're lucky, David. But you know what? This is part of the fun of being in the Dynasty Warzone patron. Patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. We've welcomed a couple of new ones within the last week. We're talking about Trevor. We're talking about Joel. Joel's in there literally for 3 hours. My man's already in the IDP startup, and he picked up one of our remaining 2-3 orphans. So it's a lot of fun. It's $5. We don't have tiers. We don't do all those shenanigans. It's just a bunch of dudes and a few ladies talking Dynasty fantasy football. There's bonus podcasts. There's rankings. There's all the stuff. And we're just keeping it because it keeps the streaming service going. It keeps a lot of things going, Jerry. But speaking of getting going, we better get going.
True.
We should. We should. We don't have a good people bad tweets. Have you seen any bad tweets out there?
I have not, but the credit to the people for that.
I haven't been looking. I'll be honest. Twitter is like one of the last places I check on a daily basis. Like I think we all have our morning social routines. I get up, I let my dog out, pour a cup of coffee, sit down at like the kitchen bar, and I instantly go to our group chat because we do have a lot of Australians in our group chat, and those guys are up at different hours than we do. Like, they're living and working when we're sleeping and vice versa. We have a couple of third shifters like Cole and Austin. And, these guys are up, and I want to get caught up with what was going on in the chat the night before. And, the last social media that I actually check is Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I probably mine too, honestly. That's why I've been in a couple DM chats with you when people have DM'd us about jumping on a show or doing this and that. Don't DM me. I'll just always, here's my phone number because I'll respond to text messages. It's just easy to do that way.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you. I listen, Twitter is a resourceful tool that can be used for good. Mostly it's just vomit. So I tend to ignore it a lot.
Absolutely. So there you go. Patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone and YouTube Dynasty Warzone, along with ratings and reviews. If you want to help us in any way, shape, or form, those are the big three. Rate and review the show, iTunes, Spotify, whatever. Subscribe to the YouTube. Consider the Patreon. Those are the three things that help Jerry and I out tremendously. But anyway, enough shilling. Let's get into the meat and taters of this, Jerry. We're going to be talking about rookie risers and fallers. So do you want to start on a positive note or do you want to start on a negative note?
Historically, we are haters.
This is true. You heard the last intro. Couple of haters.
I think let's go that route. You want
to go first? Hold on, Jerry. If they're new here, they may not have heard the new entrance, because I do new entrances all the time. I'm not much on video editing, but I got the audio thing down. So if you didn't hear the previous entrance, me and Jerry sometimes.
And what do you know? We got a couple of haters.
Sometimes we're a couple of haters, Jerry. So let's stay on brand. Who is a rookie that is falling down your draft board? Now remember, subject to change. Could land in a perfect landing spot on a team that we love, situationally accurate. All of those things can change. But right now, what you know today, approximately 3 weeks away from the NFL draft, give us a guy tumbling down your draft board.
Quentin Johnston. I mean, he was already lower than expected. It just I have this thing where I like to prove myself wrong as best as I can. That's always how I try to. If I see something that I really like, I try and find every single flaw in it that I can. And if I hate something, I try to find something that's really good in it because I want to get to the truth. I don't want to be right. I want to get to the truth. And so I have really tried with Quentin Johnston, and it just doesn't do it. I'll have 0 shares. It's not that I think he can't do it. It's just where he's going. There's never going to be a situation where I'm going to take him.
How far would he have to fall? So I think currently depends on if you're doing super flex or 1 QB. Let's just say like around the turn in a super flex and probably somewhere 107, 108 in a 1 QB. I think that's fair. I didn't have any ADP pulled up for this.
It would probably be later than that.
So for me, he's a second rounder.
I feel like there's going to be probably 3 running backs that are in that tier that are going to end up in a spot that I'm just going to like better. And I would just rather take the shot on the running back than the wide receiver that I don't really like. And I don't think he has a great skill set for the NFL to be productive.
Give me a team and some potential draft capital that could make you say, okay, I'm going to raise him up my draft board.
Probably the Cowboys.
Cowboys as like the number 2 next to CeeDee Lamb, second round Cowboys, first round Cowboys I've seen.
Yeah, like if it's something like that, then throw what I've just said the last 2 minutes out because I would definitely take him then. But he'll probably go even higher than I want to take him in that case. So I still probably want to end up with the damn guy. But I mean that would definitely switch it for me. But there's not many. He's just not. I don't love it. There's never a time where I see it and I'm like, this guy is going to win me a fantasy championship.
My big thing is, and this is a phrase that I coined about a month and a half ago when I had John Sheps and Nino Brown from the Toilets to Titles crew on the podcast with me, and we were like, I don't like big guys that play small. It just seems, and in a conference like the Big 12 where defense is mostly optional, it felt like he should have had way more stats than like just under 1,100 yards. And he should have had way more than 6 touchdowns, especially in 14 games. And listen, Max Dugan could end up being the next Brock Purdy, or he could be the next Brock Lesnar and become a pro wrestler. I don't know what Max Dugan will do with the rest of his days. But I do know as it relates to quarterback, he's a slightly above average college quarterback.
True.
He got a team from TCU into the national championship game. So he has to be at least average to slightly above.
Yep.
And that's the best you can do is 1,075 yards and 6 touchdowns in 14 games. I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed, Jerry.
I didn't love that either, but more so, it was just how he got to those. It's just so much like do a curl route and then spin around the defender, and then he'd get an extra 9 yards. And it was just like doing that over and over and over again. None of it seemed like star. He had some electric plays, don't get me wrong, one against Michigan in the college football playoff, which I will love for the rest of my life, but just not enough for me to think dynamic NFL wide receiver. He could be an NFL wide receiver. I see that for sure. That's 100% the case. But is he going to be a game-changing NFL wide receiver, which is what I need to win a dynasty championship?
And to hit the button and to hit the draft button in the first round, because if he's not commanding volume as the number 1 in TCU, how is he going to demand and command volume in the NFL as the number 2 on what will be a team, like you said, like the Cowboys? Could, the Titans need, they need wide receivers.
Even with the Cowboys, I think Michael Gallup is just a better wide receiver than he is.
And what does the distribution of targets look like in Dallas?
Exactly.
Michael Gallup, year 2 removed from the ACL surgery. I actually think he's going to be a sneaky buy. When we're doing this startup, I hope none of the patrons are listening because I know they're listening. But, Michael Gallup's going to be a guy that I'll be looking at like wide receiver 4 or 5. That could be an absolute steal. We always forget these guys coming off the ACL, like the year after is the real bounce back year, especially Gallup, because his was pretty late into the tear year. I think it was like around that November range. And, it wasn't like some guys, not everybody's Adrian Peterson that's a super freak that tears their ACL in late December and then comes back and crushes the NFL, the following year. Some guys, they need this on-ramp, this return to service to really be a guy. So why have another wide receiver, Jerry? My first guy that's falling down my draft board, he was the guy that I really liked for a bit. But if you look at his draft profile over on playerprofiler.com, it's Jalen Hyatt. I want to like him. Good size, height-wise. He's 6 foot tall. He's a $180. Thin guy, 21, but 4.4 speed, a very, very good burst as an athlete. But Jerry, when I say one-hit wonder, what do you think when I say like one-hit wonder? Can you think of an artist that was a one-hit wonder?
I don't want to besmirch the good name of Lou Bega and Mambo number 5, but Lou Bega and Mambo number 5.
That's a really good one. I don't know who sung it, but I was thinking of like the Macarena. And they could be huge in Latin and Central America. I don't know. But here, like the Macarena was a one-hit wonder. And it was a smash. It was a huge hit, much like Lou Bega, Mambo number 5. And I'm getting Mambo number 5 vibes from Jalen Hyatt.
Okay.
Dude, Jalen Hyatt, his stats this year are great. Dude played 12 games, 67 catches, so just over 5 catches a game, 1,200 yards. So he averaged over 100 yards a game. Took advantage of his target share. But I'm like, okay, you look at some of these guys' profiles on Player Profiler, and you'll see him ramp up, right? Nah, dude, nah. In 2020, he played 8 games, had 20 receptions for 276 yards. In 2021, he had played in 9 games. He had 21. He went from 20 to 21. And then in receiving yards, he actually went down. He went from 276 to 226. And his target share went down. And then all of a sudden, there's just this ginormous spike. And I think we forget sometimes that this spike coincided with Cedric Tillman getting hurt and missing some time. So I think Jalen Hyatt is a one-hit wonder, and he's a guy that if you're doing dynasty best ball, totally cool with picking him up because he feels like the kind of guy who can win you a week. And when you look at his comparable, that's one thing I love about player profilers. They do like the best comparable. His best comparable is De'Ami Brown. I don't want to draft De'Ami Brown, Jerry. I really don't.
I'll draft De'Ami Brown where I was drafting him a few years ago, but that's not where Jalen Hyatt's going. So
brutal. Are you a Jalen Hyatt guy at all? I mean, I want to, but it was a prolific offense.
I will take some stabs for sure, but I'm not like, oh yeah, that's great value that I'm just gonna have to nab in every draft. Like I think he's worth having a couple shots on in case he can replicate. But no, bro's like his production is like young Sammy Sosa. Like look at Sammy Sosa's first couple years, right? Like bro looks like me. And then all of a sudden he finds the ability to get stronger. And all of a sudden bro's got, just monster pythons.
He needs a bigger hat. His head grew.
And that's what Jalen Hyatt's production was like. It was like, he was young.
I want Sosa. I want Jalen Hyatt on a dynasty best ball team if he goes to like the LA Chargers. Big, deep arm quarterback who can really, if Jalen Hyatt gets behind a defense that can really push the ball. But if
I have wide receivers, like if I have good wide receivers, I'm fine with taking Jalen Hyatt. Like that, I don't mind, because I'm guessing he's probably going to go after that running back tier that I like. And if I have a good wide receiver core and he's just that lottery ticket that I'm hoping, that little slot machine pull, trying to get a little lucky with it, trying to get the free car in Vegas vacation, then I can dig that.
Well, Nick Papagiorgio and Jerry and I all said that Jalen Hyatt is an end of the second round type player. So let's go positive. Who's a guy who's crawling up?
Good on you for getting his name, because I almost said it, but I didn't want to like
Nick Papagiorgio from Yuma.
Yeah. I didn't want to like age out some of our listeners or anything. But
so normally this is the kind of shenanigans we put on the patron only podcast when Jerry and I record for 15-20 minutes before we go live. So we were going to go to Las Vegas. Again, the whole story as to what happened will be up on the Patron podcast soon. But my son and I actually watched that movie and The Hangover to prepare him for Vegas. So he was going to actually play the role of Nick Papagiorgio. so I had seen it recently. So in fairness to you, I had probably watched it within the last month. But I love Nick Papagiorgio. But to segue, give me a guy you love, a guy that you love that's creeping up your personal draft board, and give us some reasons.
The guy that's sort of jumping into the void that is Quentin Johnston is Zay Flowers. Now, it's not to say that Zay Flowers doesn't deserve to be up there, because he does. Just for me, he's just something about watching him. I don't love guys that are, my size-ish, right? Like he's 5'9", $180. Like he's not a humongous dude. But if you just watch him play, and I'm going to say something that is I don't like to do, because we literally made fun of it last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, about doing comparisons to people. So I'm going to compare him in between two people. Zay Flowers is like a bad Antonio Brown and a good Richie James. Like, I feel like they're both the same type of wide receiver. They're just different talent, different talent levels. He's right in between there. It took Richie a little bit to be relevant, 7th round pick, but he's super shifty, can create space, yada, yada, yada. Antonio Brown is obviously Antonio Brown before the crazy, superstar of superstars. Zay Flowers can do that. I mean, little guy, caught tons of touchdowns, super productive, just fun to watch, can get open. He's the exact thing that the NFL is looking for in the last 2 to 3 years. We're going through this trend where this is exactly what wide receivers are. Sign me up. And I'll take him at 109, 110 every single time.
Now, he's a guy that is pretty stable in mock drafts. I've seen him a lot to the New York Giants. I think that's a great spot. I don't
100%.
think there's a true alpha there, and he could come in, especially with first round draft capital, and establish that spot as his own. But is there a spot that would make you a little bit worrisome, a little bit nervous that he maybe couldn't reach his full potential? Like Cincinnati, I don't think Cincinnati would take him, but that would be a bad spot.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it would have to be a place like that. I haven't looked tons into thinking about which teams are going to draft wide receivers. I'll sort of just let that play out since the Lions are probably not going to take one. But it would have to be a spot that's full. But,
So
even so, he's a guy that just fits exactly what the NFL is now, and he can make separation, and that's ding ding ding. Hi. If you can make it easier on your quarterback, because there's not a lot of great quarterbacks either, and if you can make it easier on them, you're going to get the ball more.
All right. Well, I'm neutral on Zay Flowers. He's right there.
I mean, you can shit on him if you want.
No, I think I got him at my wide receiver 3 in the class.
Okay.
So it's going to be
that's where he's at for me too.
It's going to take a lot for him to leapfrog Jordan Addison.
Yeah,
and no one's leapfrogging Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I think I have him fairly ranked. So for him, he was hard to move. But can I tell you about a guy that I don't think I don't think his name's been mentioned at all. And I'm gonna be real honest. This feels dirty to say. Like, I listen to a lot of Dynasty podcasts. I've not heard a lot about Dwayne McBride, running back from University of Alabama, Birmingham. And Jerry, when you look at this guy's stats, I mean, holy cow. This guy, we talked about Jalen Hyatt being a one-hit wonder.
Right.
Dude, this guy's got hits. I'm not saying he's like the Rolling Stones, but like maybe Britney Spears. He's got a handful of number one solid gold hits. I mean, this is a guy who 3 years in college, so he's a true junior, by the way. He is 21.7 years old per Player Profiler. So his freshman year, he got 47 rush attempts. Okay, not bad. He averaged, almost 10 yards a carry, by the way. Then his sophomore year, he had 205 rushing attempts for 1,368 yards. Oh, and 13 touchdowns.
But wait, there's more.
But Billy Mays, that's right. But wait, there's more. And that was in 13 games. This year, in just 11 games, he had 233 rushing attempts for 1,713 yards and 19 touchdowns. The guy's an absolute hammer. Now, the big concern is that he is not a pass catcher. Jerry, when I say that he's not a pass catcher, I will tell you in his entire college career, he has five more receptions than you do in your entire college career. And you're a career student.
That's true. Mine was 0. So,
and his is 5. He had 3 as a sophomore and 2 as a junior. Now, I don't want to fall into the trap. I always tell people don't fall into the trap. Josh Allen, he's a unicorn. He's a one-off. You're starting to see a little bit of that with Jalen Hurts. Your man, Michigan State Spartan Dog, Kenneth Walker, he was a guy who didn't have much of a pass catching profile and then made it to the Seahawks and caught passes real well. So maybe he can, but I mean, I'm not even seeing any real ADP on this guy. And I'll tell you, I look at his profile now. He's not had a pro day. He didn't work out at the combine. So I don't have a 40 time. I don't have a player profiler, draft profile to build off of. But just looking at his size, I'm sitting here thinking, why would I take Tank Bigsby in the second round when I could probably take this cat in like the third or fourth round of rookie drafts? I'm not going to go as far as to call this guy I'm not ready, maybe, to call this guy a James Robinson, but you read draft profiles, and Lance Zierlein, he gave him a 6.19 prospect grade, which is good backup with potential to develop into a starter. So he's a guy who's going to get, drafted to an NFL team, maybe even a priority free agent. And he's going to be a guy who's going to be an injury away from potential relevance. So he's a guy I'm going to have a ton of. Jerry, had you heard a lot about Dwayne McBride, and what are your thoughts? Because I think he may be the second best running back available in this draft from the state of Alabama. I don't have him. I
wasn't
don't have him
wasn't
ahead
sure
of.
where you were going there for
I
a second,
I don't have him ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs by any form or fashion.
right.
But if you tell me if you lock it in right now in April, I can get him in the 4th or Tank Bigsby in the 2nd. I'm probably going to take him in the 4th. I'm going to be real honest with you, especially if their NFL draft capital is similar.
Just from the little bit I have seen, the only thing I would say is he doesn't have tons of high end speed. But you know who he reminds me of is a little bit of Devin Singletary. Smaller school, not tons of pass catching, just a unbelievable ability to just slam the ball through the line. So I'm with you. You know, I haven't watched a ton of him. I'm going to be honest with you, but from the little bit that I have, you're like David said, you're probably a dick for bringing it to light. But you know, I guess that's
he is the he is the sleeper of this whole draft class. I mean, every show it's literally Roshan Johnson and my man Sean Tucker and Izzy Abanaconda and all of these guys, and it's like no one's talking about Dwayne McBride. And I think, I don't think I don't have it on the soundboard. Maybe no, I don't. It's the wrong Conor McGregor drop. It's like, who the fook is that? There's going to be a lot of middling fantasy and dynasty players who hear the name on like the 3rd round of the NFL draft or maybe the 4th round of the NFL draft. They're going to hear Dwayne McBride. They're going to go, who the fook is that guy? Who the fook is Dwayne McBride? Because people are going to have no clue. I'm telling you right now, if you've not seen him, acclimate yourself, get familiar with, learn a little bit about Dwayne McBride. You're probably going to see a lot of like crappy YouTube highlights set to, I like rap music. I like Lil Durk. I like Lil Baby and Dub Baby. I like all these guys, but it's always crappy rap music. What's so funny? I can't like rap music.
No, you can. You are just you're showing that you have a Gen Z kid because I have no idea any of the people you just said.
Oh, dude. So can I give you a little Memphis lifestyle hack?
Yeah, shoot.
First of all, spend time with younger people younger than you. First of all, they're not as dumb as you think they are, and they can teach you a lot. Second of all, Instagram, okay? Sometimes they consider original audio so they don't like tag the song. But a lot of times in Reels at the bottom in the lower left-hand corner, they'll tag the song. And, I may be old and not as like, because I like, Eminem and Ice Cube and Dr. Dre and like Snoop and, DMX and Lil Wayne and all those guys. But when these new guys come out, a hit's a hit. A good song when you hear a good song. And I'm like, if I hear it and I like it, I instantly go to my iTunes. I just search it and add it to my library. It's technology. I can't tell you that 20 years ago, I would have been rushing to like the whatever the CD store was and would have picked up a copy.
Right.
But like my Apple Music cost me the same either way. Yeah. Little lifestyle hack from your boy Memphis. When you're listening to music on social media, if they tag the music and you like it, go download it. Because if you don't, you'll forget. And then you won't even be able to place it. So there you go, Jerry. But give me your other riser.
So mine is another guy that definitely doesn't get buzz or really anything. Honestly, his buddy in Arkansas gets a little bit more love than him, and I can understand why.
Darren McFadden?
No.
Tell me it's Darren McFadden. Oh, it's not.
No, the guy I was actually just talking about Darren McFadden today, though. That's weird. Is Matt Landers, wide receiver. So going to be a late stab, but 6'4", 4'3", something 40, semi-productive. Nothing that's going to just. I mean, you watch him. He's not a special player by any means. What he reminds me of is DJ Chark, because that's what DJ Chark was coming out of LSU. He was a humongous dude who could run extremely fast. And all of a sudden, DJ Chark went in the 2nd round with like 600 receiving yards in one season at LSU. And everyone was like, holy shit, what just happened? And then he got re-signed by the Lions. And then he got immediately re-signed again because assets like that are things that the NFL wants. And if I can get that for a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick, and then I can just
especially if you a good team.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, dude 6'4" with a 4'3", 740. Like, are you effing kidding me? Like, that's a superhuman. And I mean, if you watch him play, he's a poor man's DK Metcalf. Like he's not killing people. He's not creating tons of space. He's a straight line runner and a little curl runner. When everybody starts biting and trying to make sure they don't rip it over the top, he turns around, curls, beep, give me the ball. Give me 15 yards. Thank you. And if you can get somebody to just refine him a little bit, dude's going to be okay. And you're not paying anything for him. He's absolutely a guy that, for the teams I do have 4th round picks on, I'm going to just snag him. Boop, boop, boop. Thank you. Just add him on, throw him on the taxi, and we're just Jay chilling, brother.
All right. So say his name again, what college he went to, because some of these people are driving a car, and we get bad with pronouns sometimes. We say a guy's name, and then we drop a lot of he's and hims. And so say his name again so that we can write this down. Here's my pencil. If you're watching live on YouTube, that is a mechanical pencil. Name again, Jerry.
You still have – see, I write with pens. I can't write with pencils. But Matt Landers from the University of Arkansas.
All right. Ned Flanders from Springfield. No, I'm sorry.
That's why we can't have nice things.
Matt Landers.
Matt Landers,
not to be confused.
4.37 at the combine. So we're not talking pro day numbers. We're talking combine numbers.
All right. So Matt Landers, not to be confused with Ned Flanders. Now, my guy's a little bit – so – I hit you with a little bit more of an obscure guy in Dwayne McBride with my first guy. My second guy is starting to get a little bit of love. But the reason why I'm giving him a little bit of love is he reminds me of a guy that I love, and that's Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims, 5'11", 180.
Reminds you of Denzel Mims?
No, he reminds me of T.Y. Hilton. Again, I love to attribute when I use someone else's tech and information. So a lot of this was pulled from Player Profiler. But if you go to Player Profiler and you search Marvin Mims and then you search T.Y. Hilton, you'll notice they have a lot of things in common. They are both around, 5'10", 5'9". They both weigh 180-ish pounds. They both ran just under a 4.4 40. They both have a similar speed score. The difference is Marvin Mims has a way higher burst rating. I am considering him bursty T.Y. Hilton, which means he's fast like T.Y. I don't know that he's quite the route runner of T.Y., but a guy that, and I think for me as a Colts fan who watched a lot of T.Y. Hilton, I think that's high praise. I don't know that he ever leads the league in receiving yards in a single year like T.Y. did, but I think this guy's going to wind up becoming less of a value, but he's still rising up my draft board. And the best part is, the same conference as Quentin Johnston, who you brought up earlier, less games, more receiving yards. Less games, same number of touchdowns. He didn't have a Max Duggan. As a matter of fact, he lost Caleb Williams and the head coach. They both went to USC. And he still had a career year and dominated in target share. And I saw the measurables. I think he's going to go probably day 2 of the NFL draft. Again, earlier, I don't want to compare Dwayne McBride to being this year's James Robinson. James Robinson, thanks to friend of the show, Shane Hallam, is an all-time hit for us. And I don't want to compare Marvin Mims to being my Terry McLaurin or Cooper Kupp, because those are 2 of my all-time greatest hits. But he's a guy I think who's going to go in that draft range in that 3rd round. I think Cooper Kupp was 69. Nice. Overall in his draft class, Terry McLaurin was 76 overall in his draft class. I think Mims could get similar draft capital. And if he does, I think he will be an absolute steal. But then again, a lot of people like him. So I'm a big Marvin Mims guy. I like that profile. Now, Player Profiler has him comped to Darnell Mooney. Maybe they see him more as like that home run threat because he does have that burst and he does have that speed. You know who else has a lot of burst and speed and wins that way in the league? Tyreek Hill. And I don't want to compare anybody to Tyreek Hill. He is the most unique combination of pure speed and pure like suddenness, that I have ever seen in the NFL. But Mims has tools. And if he were to wind up in a spot like, again, I don't want to send everybody to the Chargers, but the Chargers are great. I don't think he'll wind up on the Dolphins or like with Josh Allen. I would be from 6 to midnight, as I've once heard it say, with Marvin Mims. So that's my guy. He's rising up boards, and I think we could slap a rocket ship on his back if he lands with like a Josh Allen or a Justin Herbert, and I think he's going to be a good one, man. I love this kid's profile.
Yeah, I'm with you. Had you not told me who you were picking when you said what show we were doing today, he would have been on my list as well. So
see, that's the power of this pencil.
Yeah.
I write the show sheet. I write the
That's
show
right.
sheet and send it to you, so I have the right of the first refusal. I didn't think that you would have taken I started to say Denzel Mims, but Marvin Mims. But I wasn't even going to give you the opportunity. I write the show sheet. I was taking Marvin Mims.
No, that's a good one. As far as my final faller, it's another guy.
Hold on, I want to hit him with a little bonus real quick.
Oh,
I really want to talk.
You know why? Because he writes the damn show.
I just want to exactly. Well, I'm hosting. Just remember the name Michael Wilson. I've mentioned him before. He's another guy. Great.
He used to ride my bus when I was in elementary school.
I think everybody had a friend named Michael Wilson. I graduated with a guy named Michael Wilson, but it's not this guy. This is a guy who played wide receiver at Stanford. He's a smart player. He's the kind of guy that just I like smart players with like if he stays in California and he winds up, I'm going to like any wide receiver that winds up in LA with the Rams. I don't think Skoronski, is that his name? Skoronski's the tackle from Northwestern. Skoronek is the wide receiver. Someone's going to wind up in LA. They need some weapons. They gave Allen Robinson permission to seek a trade, which nobody took him up on. Shocker. But I just remember the name Michael Wilson because I fought the urge to make him my other riser. But Jerry, give us your final faller.
It's going to be Devin Achane from Texas A&M. Achane? It's got to be Achane.
It's Devon Achane.
Achane. God, that's so much cooler. I might actually put him back up now. No, Devin Achane. He's just too little for me. He was pretty good, right? Like I fell for that with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's a good pass catcher, just like Clyde Edwards-Helaire was. Little guy, just like Clyde Edwards-Helaire was. Productive Clyde was in the SEC. Achane is in the Big 12, which is a little bit different, but he's just too small for me. I see in no way, shape, or form this man can be a 3-down back in the NFL. And if he's not, I'm good. Like there's going to be an opportunity for him to be a value. It's just not going to be this year. Like there will be a time down the road when I go, oh, okay, this guy is, Deion Lewis or James White, like one of these just pass catching backs. And I go, okay. And I can, throw a little something there, throw in a trade. The problem is where he's going to go. He's just not a throw in. And he's never going to be unless he gets drafted super late because of the size, in which case that's going to tell me everything I need to know already. So he's just there's never going to be a situation where I take him this year.
Listen, I'm not a guy that I love. He's like the kind of guy that
if he was a Spartan, I would love that man forever because he looks great in playing college football. As a dynasty owner,
he's fast.
I can't. Yeah.
People like him. He's fast. I think he was an Olympic like alternate sprinter or hurdler or something, which makes sense, right? Given his speed profile. But I get it. I am not a Devon Achane guy. I will have 0 shares. I'll tell you another guy I'll probably wind up having 0 shares of. And, I may have to check on some people because, after his bowl game against USC, this guy was getting all the love. But you know what? When I tell you that I'm falling on Tajay Spears, a lot of people are going to be like,
emotional damage.
They have emotional damage because Tajay Spears is falling down my draft board. But Jerry, there's this thing where he's like the next Matt Forte. He's gonna be.
Go to Tulane.
He did.
There. Okay.
But I blame good friend of the show Dan Williamson for this take, by the way, because I saw him tweet it out the other day and it didn't help. He weighs less than Matt Forte. He's smaller, in terms of overall size, and he's supposed to be a pass catcher, right?
Yeah.
He's supposed to be like one of the better quote unquote pass catching backs in this class. But then I say to myself, hey, then why does he have less career receptions than Zach Charbonnet, who's really kind of considered more of like a between the tackles bruiser? And I say to myself, why does he have less career receptions than Sean Tucker and Roshan Johnson? He's small. He's not super fast. I know that we could become victims of the last thing we saw. And the last piece of tape that he put up against USC was special. And in fairness to Spears, they did win the game because of him. He had a tremendous game and he carried that team. I just don't. I mean, I'm gonna let the NFL tell me. Like I said, that's why I reserve the right to be able to move him back up. If Sean Payton takes him in the top of the third round, Sean Payton has made guys like Alvin Kamara, Pierre Thomas, so many others valuable from a PPR standpoint in his offense. So I've got to take note. But if he winds up and just becomes a guy, he could wind up being the next Travion Williams or a guy that we really like and just never really led up to it. So I want to like him, but where I think he's going to go, I'm going to be taking other guys. When I'm on the clock at 2:06 and I'm picking a running back, I'm hoping for Roshan Johnson and Sean Tucker. I know I'm not going to get Zach Charbonnet there, but smaller than I like. Decent. I mean, I'm not knocking a guy for having, almost, 55 catches in college. That's really good, actually. But it's just not like great. So where I think he'll go and the hype that he had coming in probably won't have a lot of Tajay Spears, Jerry.
That is entirely dependent on his draft capital and his situation for me.
I reserve the right to change my mind at a moment's notice, because if he goes like I don't know, I'm throwing out because I don't have a mock draft pulled up, but if he goes like 69 overall to Denver or some shit, I'm in. Or Tennessee. If he goes to Tennessee is behind Derrick Henry is that pass catch. Okay, we got to reevaluate. Houston behind a bruiser like Dameon Pierce. You got Miami. Miami needs a fucking they re-signed Salvon Ahmed and Miles Gaskin and Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. I was like, all those guys suck.
All the Debbie guys.
It's like, have you seen Mr. Deeds?
All the Debbie guys from 8 years ago.
The classic movie Mr. Deeds with Adam Sandler and oh my goodness, the guy, he was in Rounders, John Turturro.
Yeah,
he was in so many of my favorite movies, and he's playing the butler, and he becomes the guy who owns the company, and he starts firing everybody. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I would do if I was a running back coach in Miami. I'd be like, "You're fired," and you are definitely fired. And you absolutely are. I mean, that's what I would be doing in the Miami running back room right now, because those guys are terrible. Yeah. So I would love to. If he wound up there, I've got to take notice. Atlanta, you got to take notice. But there's so many depth charts that he could get buried behind, and I'm just not falling in love with the profile.
Yeah, I think he's a fine running back, and if he lands in a good spot with good draft capital, I will be more inclined to take him in that range of guys that I like. And if he doesn't, I won't. The NFL draft is 100% going to decide whether I have Tajay Spears or not.
100%. Well, Jerry, there you go. That's I was thinking we were going to roll into this bonus and we were going to have this thing knocked out in like a pizza delivery, 30 minutes or less. But here we are, almost at an hour. But man, I'm getting super excited. I'm ready for some NFL. Because the content's kind of and not our content. Our content's always great, but the NFL content, the mock drafts are getting worse. The trades
they are really getting worse.
Yeah, I know. What's his name? Tannenbaum. He used to be the GM of the Jets. He had Hendon Hooker going 5 overall to the Seahawks the other day. It's no wonder you got fucking fired.
Right.
It's what's his name? Chris Sims. He always has a bunch of weird out there in left field takes, but
and they're everywhere.
Mike Tannenbaum is
my algorithm just hits his every single time.
Yes, my goodness, but I mean, we need the NFL to clear this up. We have so many stories left to be there's so much undone. And there's so many guys. I will tell you this right now. This is a little bonus for those of you that rode this thing out to the end. Right now, if you're doing startups or investing in premium positions, I'm telling you right now, this wide receiver class sucks ass. I don't know a pleasant way to say it. This is Jackson Smith and Jigba and a bunch of maybes. So all of your Garrett Wilsons, Chris Olaves, Terry McLarens, DK Metcalfs, all those guys in that 22 to 26-year-old range are safe as a baby in his mama's arms. But all your running backs, they're scared. They should be scared because this is the influx of talent. So don't get off your feet out there giving up a bunch of, young players and draft picks for guys like, Austin Eckler, even on a contender. Those are the kind of plays that are going to get you in trouble. You don't want to go out and try to, I think the Dalvin Cook recovering from a shoulder surgery and Alvin Kamara's got his own set of headaches. And, I think Joe Mixon's fine for 2023, but I think it's sayonara after that.
We're getting to the end there.
It's adios, hit the road.
The running backs are about to get neutered for sure.
There's going to be a lot of, backfields like Derrick Henry. He's going to get someone this year. The guys, the guys in everybody likes Philadelphia. I'm telling you, dude, Philadelphia is a prime landing spot for Bijan Robinson. I know it's a luxury pick, but when you've hoarded and built and stashed the picks the way that Howie Roseman has, sometimes, who buys luxury goods? Who buys Louis Vuitton? Who buys Gucci?
The wealthy.
The people who can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And who can draft Bijan Robinson in the top 10? Howie Roseman, because he can afford it, because he's made the moves that's allowed his team to be able to afford a presence like Bijan Robinson. And I know there's services out there that love, Kenneth Gainwell and, those guys, but Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders. There's so many guys. I'm telling you right now, who do I feel confident in from a dynasty standpoint? Really, from the running back position, I have 3 guys. I feel confident in Breece Hall. I think they like the backfield of Breece Hall, Michael Carter, and Ty Johnson. I feel confident in Kenneth Walker, and I feel confident in Jonathan Taylor. Outside of that, man, I'm not super confident that bad things aren't happening. And I could easily see the Colts taking a pass-catching running back. Not saying that would completely nerf Jonathan Taylor, but, there was a time where Naheem Hines was getting a bunch of receptions.
I mean, Kenneth Walker could get some competition too.
He's going to, because they let Rashad Penny walk.
Yep.
It's going to be wild. So if you're doing startups, I'm telling you right now, you'll always be able to trade for, we talked about earlier, if James Robinson starts off having a good season, you'll get him dirt cheap. But you want to invest in these premium wide receivers. But I'm glad I invested spending over an hour with my good friend Jerry here.
See, that's why you're such a sweetheart.
See, I mean,
listen, and we could make it worse. I mean, we could ramble. You wanted to do a quick podcast, but we can keep going. You should see this book I got next to me. I can't.
Please don't, guys. Jerry is a history buff.
No. This is worse. This is the old ladies. It is on bull scrotums. I think she's learning how to do neutering and stuff.
Oh, Jerry.
There's a graphic. There's a graphic and everything. So if you guys want to know about the scrotal septum, I can tell you it's right here.
For bringing that up in the podcast.
Everybody just turned it off.
Jerry.
It's done. Everybody's gone.
I gave you the Mario movie came out. I'm giving you Mario.
Honestly, I think she left this page open so I would laugh at it because I'm a child.
All right. Well, I'm going to get out of here before Jerry brings up any more bull scrotums. But listen, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. At some point, there's going to be a big announcement. We're waiting for the official word, and we're going to share that with you ASAP. But until then, please support us. 3 things. 3 things. Not a lot, but just in case.
Let me tell you a couple of 3 things.
Couple of 3 things. Go to YouTube, search Dynasty WarZone, subscribe. Notifications on or off, that's really your call, but just subscribing helps us out a ton, cost you nothing. Going to Apple or Spotify and leaving us a rating and review. Again, cost you nothing, couple of seconds, and it helps the show. Final thing, consider patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. Does cost you $5, but you get bonus content, you get one-on-one help, you get rookie rankings, you get extra podcast. Again, just so much more. Do those 3 things for us. And on that note, Jerry, let's get out of here.
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. Jerry's going to go watch the Detroit Tigers. You could tell by his hat. But on behalf of the Tigers fan, Mr. Jerry Sinclair, follow him at DWZ, Jerry Sin DWZ, and follow me at DWZ Memphis. We'll be back here next week where we're going to do that mock draft, where we're going to mock draft the rookies and the sophomores, see where this class really stacks up when we're doing a draft. So we'll catch you soon. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for tuning in.